Well, welcome everybody. Lovely to be here with you today. My name is Ruben San Ramiro. I'm the wine director at PM Vänner. I'm being able to share three of our most beloved producers in Champagne that we work very closely with at PM, and certainly three of the upcoming rising stars. What we have here are three growers, so three small producers in the region of Champagne that are growing their fruit and making champagne from the fruit that they are growing in their vineyards. They are not buying any fruit, and that's sort of the concept of grower champagne. As you might know, the region of Champagne has changed quite a bit since, let's say, the last 30, 35 years, where there are more and more of these small producers that have traditionally grown the grapes and sell them to bigger houses, those houses that are, of course, still producing fantastic champagnes, but they need the supply from small growers around the region. And they have kept the grapes from themselves, and they have really mastered the art of making wine and making champagne. And they are sort of bringing very specific style of champagnes to the table. Champagnes that often do speak of one single village, of one single vineyard, versus the traditional blending that we have in the region through the course of the times, where champagnes have been made by blending grapes from many different places. So we have here three extraordinary growers that are focused in very specific areas in Champagne. Our first champagne is going to take us to the heart of the region of Côte de Blanc. And Côte de Blanc, as the name indicates, it is a region that is focusing on producing Blanc de Blanc style of champagne. What that really means, it means champagnes that are made 100% from the Chardonnay grape. There are extraordinary sites around the region of Champagne where Chardonnay really shines. But really, it is in Côte de Blanc where we find those Chardonnay-based champagnes that bring the most finesse, the most delicacy, and the most refined character that grape can really bring into champagnes. Côte de Blanc is a region where we find several different Grand Cru villages, where each one brings extraordinary wines. But what we're going to go now is to the Grand Cru village of Les Mesnil-sous-Ogier. This is a really famous place where we find some of the most fine chisel Blanc de Blancs in the entire region of Champagne, and perhaps some of the most delicate sparkling wines in the entire world. So we have here a champagne that comes from one of the places with most pedigree anywhere in the world. In there, we find this tiny grower, an estate called Robert Moncuy, an estate that mostly works with vineyards in the town or in the village of Les Mesnil-sous-Ogier, but also in the neighboring Grand Cru village of Ogier. And what we have here, it is an absolutely delightful introduction to the champagnes from the Grand Cru village of Les Mesnil-sous-Ogier. In fact, this champagne, it is made with a blend of 80% of the Chardonnay grapes coming from Les Mesnil-sous-Ogier and 20% from the neighboring Grand Cru village of Ogier. And this is a really fantastic balance that we find here, because we do really find in the champagne the fine, arrow, tensile, and crisp style of the wines from Le Mesnil-sous-Ogier and the slightly more generous, riper, softer, texturally driven champagnes that we find from the neighboring village of Ogier. This is the cuvée Le Grand Blanc. It's a non-vintage cuvée. In this case, most of the champagne comes from the 2016 and 2017 vintage. And it has a very low dosage of about 3 grams, which makes this champagne of extra brut. So very dry and very crispy style. The nose, it has really the extraordinary character of a champagne coming from such a fantastic place. It is a champagne that really has a wonderful, complex, and delicate aromatic profile, where wonderful fresh notes of green apples and white fruits, delicate citrus elements, mineral suggestions, and very gentle biscuity notes come all together in a beautiful and complex aromatic profile. The palate is extremely gentle, super fresh, very delicate, with an extraordinarily well-integrated mousse of very fine bubbles, lovely chalky texture and acidity, and a wine that really drives very gently through across the palate and leaves this fresh and invigorating finish. And fantastic, gentle style of champagne, all what we should expect from a Blanc de Blanc, and really extraordinary example of the Grand Cru village of Le Mesnil-sous-Ogier. With the second champagne, we remain also in the region of Côte de Blanc, but we're going to go to a different village, outside of the village of Avis, another extraordinary Grand Cru village of Champagne that produce some of the greatest Chardonnay-driven wines of the region. But we are here, it is with a producer called Don Crelé. This is a small grower. We're talking here about the state of about 6 hectares of vineyards, approximately. Most of them are located in around the village of Avis in Côte de Blanc, but they also own a little bit of vineyards in the southern part of Côte de Sézanne, and also up in the Grand Vallée de la Marne. Don Crelé, it is a estate that began to produce champagne around the late 80s. But recently the house has been under control of the new generation of Adrien Dont, who it is a super young and extremely talented producer and grower that it has really taken this domain to a completely new high levels. And today, this estate, Don Crelé, is making some of the most compelling champagnes in the region. What we have here today, it is their, let's say, introduction to the wines of the estate. The cuvée called the Un Premier Temps. And this is actually their only cuvée that we find where they really blend different grapes to make the champagne, because for the most part, what they do are Blanc de Blancs, 100% Chardonnay. In here, what we find actually is still a champagne that is very much driven by Chardonnay. It's around 50% of the blend, But then we do find 30% Pinot Noir and 20% Pinot Meunier. The Chardonnay, the 50% that we find here, actually comes from the southern sector of the region of Champagne, called the Séchanet. The Pinot Noir, it comes from a plot they own in Grand Valais de la Marne region, and then the Pinot Meunier, also from a small plot they have in the village of Cuy, close where they have the estate in Côte de Blanc. There are a lot of different factors here that make Dongrelais such an extraordinary champagne as it is. We can talk about the extraordinary vine material they have, which is at the end really the most important part for the production of any wine, what is in the vineyard. Having an average of very old vines, being very sensible in the work they do in the vineyards. They work in pretty much following organic principles and keeping their yields very low and doing everything right in order to produce very complex and concentrated champagnes. Then in the cellar, they are of course as well very sensible in the work they are doing, providing us with champagnes that combine both concentration, complexity, and a lot of elegance, despite also of having quite a bit of richness on them. This the un premier temps, coming from the delicacy of the Blanc de Blanc from Robert Moncuy, we really see a slightly more intense aromatic profile. And champagne that is driven by a slightly riper fruit character. We're talking also here about white fruits such as apple and pears, some citrus notes, but then also we find a very enchanting and attractive stone fruit character. And there is a lovely note of peach, apricot, and wonderful mineral character as well, and suggestion on the nose with lovely, elegant, spicy, and savory elements coming through. Plenty of complexity and plenty of rich suggestion of aromas in the nose. In the palate, we clearly see a champagne with a much bigger volume. We are increasing here the body as well, coming from a delicate and subtle style of Blanc de Blanc from Robert Moncuy to a fuller body champagne, and champagne that has plenty of power, but at the same time, plenty of finesse. There is a wonderful creamy mousse that drives the wine. Fantastic, gentle, vibrant acidity and tensile line of minerality that really lift all this weight of fruit and power. And a wonderful long length across the palate and long finish, making of this champagne that we can certainly and with confidence serve with plenty of dishes and plenty of food. So I would suggest perhaps Robert Moncuy to have to be the champagne to enjoy along with aperitifs or just to open the palate prior a meal, or perhaps with some raw fish or shellfish. With the Dongrelais d'un premier temps is a champagne that we can really enjoy with any wonderful preparations at home, any baked fish or even some cheeses, and play around with different light dishes that we can have on the table. Our last grower today, it is another up-and-coming grower in the region of Champagne that is really producing extraordinary wines. We're talking here about the estate called Vincent Renoir, which it is run today with the new generation called Adrien Renoir, which we can also see other champagnes from this domain coming under the label Adrien Renoir. What we have here, it is the introduction to the extraordinary range of champagnes that we can find at this domain. This is the Brut Grand Cru champagne, all coming from fruit growing in the Grand Cru village of Bercy. And we are sort of moving away from the previous two champagnes, which are located in the region of Côte de Blanc, a region that produce champagnes that are certainly on the most delicate side of champagnes that we can find in the whole region. And we move into Montagne de Reims. So we are here in a region where we find wines that are perhaps a little bit more structured. And we are also in a very particular site. As I mentioned, we are here in the Grand Cru village of Bercy. And Bercy, it is a village where we find champagnes that are certainly driven by power, driven by very incisive mineral nerve, and wines that are perhaps a bit more austere driven if we compare to some other wines that we can find in the region of Champagne. We have here in this Brut from Vincent Renoir, equal blend of Pinot Noir and Chardonnay growing in the village of Bercy. The wines from Vincent Renoir, across the whole range, there are wines that are really striking by having great nerve, by having great sense of minerality and wonderful mid-palate concentrations. We are here with a grower that, same as Adrien Renoir, working organically. As a matter of fact, the champagnes that they will come out from 2020 will be certified organic, and is doing all the right things both in the vineyard and in the cellar to produce champagnes that are truly expressive and champagnes that are also very, very elegant. Truly fascinating aromatic profile that we find here, moving much more towards the spicy, savory side of champagne, being perhaps the champagne that is maybe the most stunning mineral and perhaps the most austere out of the three, but also the champagne that we can feel that has an extraordinary potential, a champagne that it is not perhaps as much fruit forward as the previous two, but a champagne nevertheless that is driven by an extraordinary concentrated aromatic profile and with a fabulous, fabulous complexity. Notes of Meyer lemon, crystallized citrus fruit, rye apple and pear, wonderful toastiness, and a really, again, incisive minerality. A champagne that is clearly the most powerful out of the three. Um, Full in body, very structured, but a champagne that really moves along with a wonderfully firm drive of nerve and very pronounced mineral core. It has a remarkable elegance of texture. The bubbles are very well integrated. It has also a striking concentration of fruit. The mid palate, it is very well anchored in the wine moves along with great determination. The finish is long. It really leaves wonderfully dry, herbal, spicy flavor and lovely ripe pear and apple elements as is in the finish. And a champagne that also, like the Don Grelais, it's a champagne that we can certainly have if we feel just to have a glass with no food as an aperitif, as we like to do on the regular basis, but a champagne that has also the capability to move along comfortably on the table. If we like to even explore the possibility to have some richer preparations, whether there are fish or wine meats, this champagne, it will be an excellent choice. I mean, I'm thinking off the cuff any even roast chickens or with a particular creamy sauce, or even if we want to have a roast fish on the oven with some potatoes on the side, any kind of food that moves into these type of weights and elements, it will go along tremendously well with the Vincent Renoir. So we have here three different champagnes that we can really enjoy them and have them anytime we want. I mean, there are champagnes that can work very nicely on their own. There are champagnes that we can really have it with plenty of food. The holidays are really coming, and I can very easily see these three champagnes playing delightfully with the typical Christmas table that we all enjoy this time of the year. Perhaps we want to have the Blanc de Blanc from Robert Moncuy as the fabulous champagne used to socialize with our family and to have it as an aperitif before we sit on the table. And we could certainly, if we feel that we are worth it and we want to continue enjoying champagne across or during the entire dinner, the other two champagnes, the one from Don Grelais or Vincent Renoir, it can be absolutely phenomenal choices to go along with all these different small bites of fish and meat that involves the Christmas table. I can guarantee you they could match perfectly well. They have enough body, they have obviously all the acidity, freshness, and minerality that you expect for great champagnes, and all those two elements are going to be key to provide you success on your pairings for Christmas. Of course, these are champagnes as well that are ready to be drunk and enjoyed right now. They are truly sublime. But remember that champagne also, as any other great wine, has the capability to age. And these three bottles of champagnes can also, if you like to play around and explore the possibility to put them aside, you can cellar and age these wines with no problems for the next 3 to 8 years, and you will see how the champagnes will develop beautifully as well. So what I would recommend is like you could get maybe 2 or 3 bottles of each, and you can really see the evolution from how wonderful they are now when they are young, and also as they are aging and gaining in weight and in texture and also in complexity. Enjoy them at different stages. And please remember that what we have here are 3 champagnes that are in crescendo in terms of body and weight, from a delicate Blanc de Blanc from the heart of the Côte de Blanc region in Le Mesnil-sur-Oyer Grand Cru, mostly, to a wonderful blend, but fundamentally driven by Chardonnay and a good dose of a wine from Côte de Blanc as well. So kind of in between light and full in body, and a champagne that really it is driven by a structure and power, but not lacking in elegance, finesse, and complexity. All of the 3. So we're gonna move into one of the most special time of the year for all of us. We thought that would be great idea for those of you that decide to stay at home during the holidays and enjoy there with your friends and family these special times, to put together a selection of 3 of our most special champagnes that they are always available here at PM Vänner. Champagnes that, of course, if you decide and spend some of this special time with us here at PM, you will find them. But we thought there would be great proposal to be able to make available for you at home these 3 different wines that can bring some special time for you. They can bring some of the PM flavor if you decide to be at home this time of the year.